This is Andrew for the Chosen Prime with a quick video review of ToyWorld TW-C03 Burden, otherwise known as their take on the Constructicon known as Long Haul. Here's his large box. As you can see, he comes with the artwork on the front that will combine to make two different dioramas once we have all the boxes, and I'll show those off later. Burden does come in a box that does have the foam inlay that the other Constructicons have. You do get a sticker with his artwork as well as an instruction manual. You lift up this foam here. You do get some screw covers in both silver and green to cover screws if you want. You get the combiner legs, and then you actually get the figure and a weapon. What I would do as an advisory here is wait to take out Burden after you take out the legs here. And the reason for that is that on Burden, for his back wheels in his truck mode, there's some hinges that people have seen some stressing on, and so what we recommend is kind of taking out the legs so you have room to kind of get your fingers in here to pinch the back legs and then pull up. Otherwise, I think the foam kind of pulls onto these wheels here and kind of would pull and put some stress on these joints. But there's a Burden in his truck mode, and we'll go look at some truck detail. Taking a look at Burden here in detail, you can see that he looks like a pretty nice dump truck. Looks like one of the styled off of one of the very large dump trucks. He's got some nice paint and grilled kind of detail. Does have a driver's seat. He does have rubber tires like the other ToyWorld Constructicons, and they do all roll relatively smooth. He does have a nice deep bed, and in general kind of just clean and kind of accurate to what you would hope a long haul would look like. As far as these tires and these hinges here at the bottom that people have seen in some issues, these hinges here, while not super stiff, people have seen some stress marks on the green part as well as the black part here as they've been trying to transform it or pulling it out of the package. And that's why we recommended kind of when you're taking it in and out of the foam, kind of make sure that you're holding onto the wheels so they don't flex and don't kind of pull against this joint. And just always kind of be careful as you're transforming and swiveling this hinge. But we haven't seen any issues ourselves here with it. In dump truck mode here, it does look like there's supposed to be a peg that pegs it to his leg here, but we don't seem to think that that's the case. It doesn't really fit kind of flush into that part of his leg there, and the wheels and the kind of the axles just all seem to work just fine without trying to force it to peg in. But we'll go ahead and we'll transform him into his robot mode. To transform Burden to robot mode, come to these wheels down here and move them to the sides. Get them out of the way. These arms, the purple parts right here, they will unpeg from the central torso here when on the hinge. There's a peg here and a peg hole. You want to go ahead and pull them out. These feet that are attached to the back front of the cab, go ahead and unpeg them and ratchet down his chest on this hinge. The legs here will straighten out and split. The tires on these hinges back here, we'll go ahead and collapse them, so fold them in as well as angle it so that they sit on his back of his legs like that, and there are his legs. The top of the truck, go ahead and lift it up, unpeg it, and slide it back for now. These little gray pegs, move them out of the way. Lift up his head and rotate it around. These little pegs here that are meant for connecting him to in the combined mode, you want to have them fold in, but fold them in kind of at the same time, and then they will both sit flush like that. Unpeg these green panels here from the front. Rotate the arms 180 on each side. The gray bumper torso bit here, go ahead and fold it down and move these two pieces, fold them backwards. Peg in the arm section again by lifting up and pegging in these sections. Straighten out the arms on both sides. Angle it down on the hinge. This tire here, there's a gray hinge that'll come to the side, and do that temporarily, move the arms down. And the way that these tires work, there on the inside here is kind of a rotation joint. It's difficult to see, but there's a rotation joint, and what we need to do is have this tire move itself backwards. And what we do in order to do this, put some pressure on it and kind of lift it up and rotate it up, and backwards. And so essentially what we've done is it kind of rotated up and backwards on that circular hinge. And so that part is a bit of a nuisance in both robot mode as well as truck mode in order to get it just right, to get it so it pegs on here. Be careful in truck mode that when you're putting it back that the rim itself doesn't rub against this little purple tab. It actually will, it can connect part of the gray part of the inner wheel here in truck mode. So just be a little bit patient when you're going back to truck mode to peg it in. But just lift up to rotate the wheel on both sides. And shoulder done. Come to the backpack. Lift it up, and there are peg holes that match pegs on this back. Peg them in securely. Come to the hands. Open up a panel. Flip out the fist. Rotate it. Rotate it. And there is Burden in his robot mode. We'll take a look at some robot mode detail. Taking a look at some detail here on Burden. He does have a ball jointed head. They can look up and down. He does have light piping. Even though he has this panel on the back of his head, there is a cutout for the light piping to show through. As far as arm articulation, he's got that hinge as well as a ratcheting hinge there, so you can get a lot of posability upwards. His arms can only bend 90 degrees. He does have a bicep swivel. His hands are the standard Constructicon ball jointed fingers. The wrist can rotate. He does have a wrist swivel, or waist swivel. If we move these panels out of the way, he's got universal hips that are not ratcheted. He does have a double ratcheted knee due to the two ratchets there. Just give you some posing. He can twist at the waist or the thigh. As far as foot articulation, this foot is on this panel that can rotate and pivot. So if you want to have his foot kind of be slightly askew, you can. His legs are fairly clean, have some nice detail to them. He's not kind of bulked up with too much extra stuff. Combiner ports or pieces or combiner legs, anything like that. He's kind of just clean as a robot mode here. The only issue for Burden here is that his balance point is kind of off, so he has a difficult time kind of standing. He's very back heavy, and he does not, unfortunately, in this version have any kind of heel spurs or heel support, just because of the way the legs are working. And so you can get him posed fairly well, but what I recommend for that instance is kind of just rotate him forward just a little bit, so he's just leaning, his torso here is leaning forward, and then lean his head back so that he looks like he's kind of got a bigger chest. But then that'll let you go ahead and he'll be able to hold poses a lot better, and you'll be able to bend the knees and kind of get him to do what you want him to do just by kind of shifting his upper torso forward a little bit. He can hold his gun. His palm's got a peg that matches the slot on his handgun, and we just plug it into place and wrap his fingers around there, and he can hold his gun. To get Burden ready for combined mode, we come down to these wheels, the back wheels that are on hinges, and move them outwards carefully to the side. Take the truck bed, unpeg it from the back of the front of the vehicle mode, and there are two sets of hinges here in the knees, and you want to make it so that the green hinge here is higher than the gray hinge. Take these flaps for the legs here, fold it down, and then bring the back of the truck bed inwards. These tires here fold inwards so that the rims face forwards. The feet from the truck bed lift up on their hinges. The roof of the truck mode will hinge back, and when we eventually do combine it fully, these two pieces will sandwich together, and this will actually peg into the back of hook. These arms here, you want to unpeg them and open them up. We can see that there are two gray kind of peg holes here that'll match up to the legs, and there is a peg holes on the interior as well as the arms here that'll sandwich around the combiner legs parts. The legs come packaged like this. What you want to do is rotate the legs forward so that this gray set of pegs is up on top, and you can see that there are two kind of hexagonal pegs that'll peg up into Burden's underside, and then these 4 circular pegs will get sandwiched around by his arms as well as the torso. So we come and we go ahead and first plug in those 2 shaped pegs, and then we will go ahead and collapse the arms down onto the gray pegs. And it may take a little bit of effort, and you may need to lift up in places to kind of get all of them to connect in. But just be patient, and then once you do, it'll be a very secure connection between Burden and his the combiner legs. And essentially there is Burden ready for the full combination, and I'll show that off when we get to the full team. Robo mode comparisons between ToyWorld Burden and the Combiner Wars version of Long Haul. You can see that the Combiner Wars version kind of looks a bit bulky because it has to have Devastator's hips there, and overall it's kind of a lot less detailed, a little bit more hollow, a little bit less authentic to what the G1 version of Long Haul should look like, whereas Burden kind of excels there. You know, different articulation, and so you can definitely see that scale-wise they look the same kind of height, but Burden is much better being at a Long Haul than the Combiner Wars version. Truck mode comparisons, you can see that the one from Combiner Wars, the Long Haul from Combiner Wars, is much larger and bulkier than Burden, and also just a bit, you know, less accurate. You can see his hands here on the side, and it's just nice that ToyWorld's version here looks like what you would hope a newer Long Haul would look like here in his truck mode. Robo mode comparisons with another official Masterpiece figure. Here's Masterpiece Ratchet, and here's ToyWorld Burden. You can see that roughly the same scale here. Robot-wise, same height, same kind of overall detailing and kind of stylings. And so to me, again, the ToyWorld Constructicons look like they fit alongside other Masterpiece figures, the Masterpiece collection. And to me, this is a Masterpiece version of Long Haul, specifically in here in robot mode. Vehicle mode comparisons, you can see that Ratchet is just slightly smaller than what Long Haul is in his dump truck mode, but you would expect, you know, a dump truck to be larger than a standard van. And while, you know, the true Long Haul would be ginormous comparatively, here you still get a nice in-scale kind of vehicle mode as well as a nice robot mode. Some final thoughts here on ToyWorld Burden, or their take on a Masterpiece Long Haul. While this version of Long Haul does have its weaknesses compared to the other ToyWorld Constructicons, as far as the way that these hinges in the back can get stressed, the way that some of these tires work, and then heel support, he is weak, but there are a lot of good qualities to him. He's got great paint, the overall build's nice, you can get him posed, he looks like what an updated Long Haul should look like. He looks like he fits inside of Masterpiece collections, and then he will be part of that giant ToyWorld Devastator once we have all 6 put together. And so I think he looks great alongside other Masterpiece collections. If you do want these Masterpiece Constructicons, including Burden, they are all available from the Chosen Prime, and so if you like the way they look, I recommend picking them up. So take care.